Okay, let's kick it off. Let's start. It's been a couple of minutes and some of you have been patiently waiting. So, should you invest in regional markets? Now, for me, I think there are different types of regional markets. I think that inherently, the smaller the population of the market that you're investing in, the riskier the real estate investment will be. And what I mean by that is the smaller the market is, the less opportunities there are for growth, because the less opportunities there are for employment. So if you are going to be investing in a regional market, I strongly encourage you to make sure you're buying in a market that has good economic prospects, strong population growth, or reasons for that to change. What I mean by that is, in Australia, there are a lot of places around Australia that are getting invested into by the local, state and federal government to encourage investments in regional centres. So if you're going to be investing in a regional market, you really want to make sure that you've got strong population growth, good economic development, or certainly some kind of investments in infrastructure that are going to change the city. Now, I really like investing in some regional markets. I certainly avoid markets that have low economic prospects, small populations. They're very, very scary for me. The types of regional markets that I like to invest in as well, I like them if they're closer to big economic centres, such as if you're looking at Melbourne, looking at regional centres that, like Geelong, that are not far from Melbourne CBD. I like regional markets like Newcastle, which is the 7th largest city in Australia. It's only 3 hours from Sydney. I like those regional markets that can still leverage from a main CBD. You know, I like places like just outside of Brisbane. If you go north or south, an hour and a half. If you go to the Gold Coast, you go to the Sunshine Coast. I like these micro markets because you can get a lot of value in regional markets. The difficulty in these regional markets is if there's low employment opportunities. If there's not a lot of opportunities to go and get, for people to go and get jobs, if there isn't strong population growth, then you're likely not to see a lot of price growth in those markets. One of the big reasons why you would invest in a regional market is because you know more often than not, they are really good value. You can go buy good chunks of land for cheap, or you can buy an apartment for relatively cheap. The reason why to enter a regional market is for price and for value. The difficulty is they are typically riskier. With regional markets, you may go and get more rent, but the capital growth may suffer. Now, this is going to sound a bit crazy because coming out of the past 12, 24 months, regional markets actually led the growth curve in Australia. When COVID was happening, when we're coming out of the edge of COVID, regional markets actually led the way. The way that people worked, what they demanded out of their own home changed. People shifted away from wanting to live close to CBDs into wanting more space, out of apartments, into bigger homes, and regional markets flourished. People could go from having to travel into work every single day to now working a couple of days a week, or from working every single day in the office, now working from their computer. So that encouraged or allowed a lot of people to get out of city centres. The big question there is, will it continue to grow like that? Will regional markets continue to grow? And my response to that is, I sincerely think they will. I think that people have grown accustomed to value, to having, the wide open outdoors, being able to have bigger blocks of land. Now, you don't need to have huge amounts of people coming out of cities in order for there to be growth in those markets. I think that part of regional market success is the fact that you can work from home. So the bigger question there is, do we think that working from home is here to stay? Now, is anyone here that are in this live, is any of you working from home? And do you think that if you were forced to go back into the office, you would, or would you just pick another job? Now, a study came out by, I think it was Melbourne University. See, people are working from home. And what Melbourne University study came back and asked this question. The long story short is people believe that, or we've said that if they were forced to go back to work, they'd basically pick another job. And the study also went into how far or how likely are you to commute. And the response from that was that people are very happy to commute a couple hours if it means they're doing it less during the week. You know, if they're only going to go in once or twice a week, they're happy to commute a couple hours. And what that means is it opens up a whole bunch of regional markets now. You can go into work, travel 2 or 3 hours, whatever it is, and it's only a small amount of, a couple of times a week. You sit on the train, do your work, early mornings, do what you got to do and travel back. So I think that working from home is here to stay. I think that this is now a systemic thing and it's only really the beginning. I don't think it's the demise of cities. Cities have still got a huge part to play. But I do think that cities are still losing people to regional centres. Even though it's a small number, that small number has a big impact when they're going into smaller populations. So as for the question, should we invest in regional markets? My response to that is yes, you should invest in regional markets. I think that there's a lot of really good value in regional markets. You get a lot of bang for buck. You get excellent rental returns. You have to be careful if you're going to invest in a regional market. But if you do it sensibly, if you pick your investment wisely, if you've done your research, you can see that there's some kind of macro drivers, you're going to do well. Anyways, I'm going to wrap up my live session today. I hope you've enjoyed the view behind me, got some value out of the topic. Otherwise, have a brilliant Friday and a good weekend. I'll catch you all later.